Good morning, everyone. Good
Good
afternoon
morning.
to those joining us from far away. I do see some known names, so hi to all our friends from abroad. Thank you very much for being here. We are pretty excited with you to introduce you with what we've been working on in the last few months now, thinking and playing with um, artificial
Artificial
intelligence.
intelligence.
Well, that's my word here. How are
Yeah,
you, Philippe?
and specifically large language models, because in the past, of course, we've been playing with machine learning and integrating that in various parts of technology. And now with large language models, we see um, new possibilities. At the beginning, I was very doubtful of all this hype about AI and LLM. And then we applied it and saw really the benefit of it. So I don't know when, Pierre, you want to go actually into the presentations itself. I think we are
Uh,
still waiting for a few people to come up.
let's wait a couple of minutes just to make sure that we can start at the same time for with other people. I still see new
Yeah,
people joining second after second. So
great. And there was a question in the chat about having this presentation recorded. So here,
absolutely, the presentation will be recorded, made available in your inboxes. You will receive an email after this meeting with the link to the replay. Our website in the webinar category also has the replay from this one and from all the previous ones. We've made pretty successful webinars around intrusion detection and around 5G security specifically, where Martin and Philippe were introducing what we see in the field. This was our most successful so far, and we plan on having 2 new webinars in the month of March. So do check out this webpage and to join the next one coming. I'm actually
yeah, we
finding.
have a few upcoming webinar, some of open source package release that enable to monitor mobile network from the radio perspective, from the mobile handset perspective. So that's QC Super project with the V2 coming. And also, maybe you want to speak about the fact that we are present. We have a booth at Mobile World Congress.
Absolutely.
And we're demoing MobileSecAI and MobileSecGPT at MWC in Barcelona next week.
Absolutely, and I do see some people in the chat that will be meeting with us there. We are really looking forward to that. We have a really packed week, and the idea is to introduce MobileSecAI there to let you put the hands on the keyboards. We will do that virtually this morning, but to put your hands on the keyboard and try it out. We'll be in Barcelona on Pavillon France. I'll put all the details in the chat a little later, but this would be in all 5. At MMWC, so please come and meet us. We will always have some time for friends. So I think we can start. It's 9:03, so let's go for it. And the topic of the day, as you know, is MobileSecGPT and AI. We will give you some understanding around the naming, why GPT and AI. But where I want to start is to discuss why we've been doing that and why we've been building MobileSecAI. For those who have a lesser knowledge of P1 security, we are a boutique firm specialized in mobile network security, founded in 2011 by Philippe here in the webinar. And our expertise and our core expertise since then has been to secure critical infrastructure, critical and sovereign infrastructure. And one thing we've been doing in the last 15 years was training a lot of people on those very specific protocols. And what we see is that the content and the way that we consume the content, the way that we learn has completely changed. And we need to reinvent the format of accommodating knowledge. On top of which, we see that cybersecurity is really getting harder and harder to apprehend. There is a massive amount of information. That information is stored and categorized in really, really esoteric way, let's say. And so we need to find new ways and new pathways to access that knowledge. Obviously, we are we have three main components in the company. We are a training company, we are a services company, and we are a software company. In terms of product innovation, AI makes a lot of sense to connect the dots between our products. So for those who know us, the vulnerability knowledge base is a very, very powerful mobile network security knowledge base with more than 2,000 vulnerabilities. This would be a great experience to enhance its capacities with artificial intelligence. And obviously, the scale of the impact that we want to deliver from our engineers, we have world-renowned engineers, and we want them to have as much impact as we can. And to do that, delivering on-site training is not the way to scale the impact. So what we see is trying to have them involved in our products, online trainings, AI, whatever, it's going to scale the impact. What also is really important is what is the value of MobileSecAI and MobileSecGPT is making the knowledge accessible to all. One thing that we've heard for a lot of time is what we had do is connect the network professionals to the security professionals in one way or another. We train a lot of network professionals to be more oriented around security. And sometimes when we see the advent of security by design, for instance, those network engineers are really willing and motivated. I see someone in the chat with whom we've talked about that at length. We want them to be really secure in the way that they approach their work on a day-to-day basis. And the same way for cybersecurity professionals. And going back to what I've just said before, there is so much information around security overall, IT, OT, telecom. But when we see, for us, we are your vertical expert around mobile network security. But even our expertise is now getting into IT with 5G. And obviously, executives and leadership, there is one thing we are being talked is how can we have a common language between my executives and the reality of the field. And obviously, having one same common language is sharing the same path toward understanding the risks and the threats in your organization.
Yeah, and to add on that, it's super important to understand that now with this technology, as I said at the beginning, I was really figuring that AI and large language model were a shiny gimmick and with a lot of hype. But actually, it's useful for some people being directors or even officers within large operators to actually be able to directly query the mass of information and knowledge that in the past only experts had access to. And there are some questions that they want to share with the team. There are some questions that they actually want to ask first to just get some feedbacks, hence the importance of privacy and quality. You know that AI hallucinates sometimes or have some very big quality problems. So that's why we wanted to experiment with this in order to see if something was doable that would produce quality output. And it does. And what we are going to present here is how we are doing that, how it helps network engineers, cybersecurity professionals to scale up iteratively and on real-world examples. So to go there, first, you must see how we are progressing. So there's a logical progression to dealing with an AI assistant, which is basically a chat interface to a large language model. So the first use case was really how we would use AI and LLM and assistants for ourselves, for P1, and in order to train up new resources, in order to have our experts have faster digging into massive pile of information. And that's what we did with a very basic assistant. So at the beginning, it was really only our AI model using open source models for the language itself. So if you're familiar with Mistral 7B, Falcon 40B, etc., these are the basis on which we experimented with. And then in there, we put all the information that were proprietary to P1, but also everything that were basically all related to security, but not directly in security. And a good example of that, if you're familiar with our product, ProtoRisk, is all the annotated specification of 3GPP, ETSI, IETF, etc. And to have both security and network information at the same time into a language model, we were saying, okay, can it answer questions in a smart way? And we really were astonished, because at the point where we had this haha moment, we were like, oh, okay, that's working. But there were still some little issues in terms of content to connect actually the corpus of data for a cybersecurity expert in OT network, in telecom and mobile networks, to what an LLM can understand. For example, if you look into the specifications for 3GPP, there's no mention of SRISM for SS7 networks. So there are acronyms that are used in some places that are totally different in other places. And we needed to connect that. And that's what we did with a chat assistant in this step 1. And then we enhance that with a complete knowledge of the vulnerability knowledge base, but also started to say, okay, if we can put our proprietary content into an AI assistant, then why can't our customers put their information, their private information into it? And that's where we transition for step 2 to step 3, is that we started to enable in the prototypes and in testing the fact that, for example, GSMA members could have all the GSMA documentation into an AI assistant. And since we are a GSMA member, you don't need to do it. We have done it for you, right? But then, of course, there was a question of accessibility compared to on-premise security of information. Because going one step further was the way that an operator could upload its architecture, high-level documentation, low-level design, etc. Then how to upload all the vendor documentation. And if you think about it, it's massive. 3GPP, GSMA, private information as a member, then all the vendor documentation, all the technical documentation, it starts to be huge. And that's where we started to have answers where we're like, okay, let's quantify how much time this would have taken if we would do that by ourselves. So that's where we said, okay, there's an interest beyond P1. We really need to get that in front of the people who asked for it. And they were basically, the first results were quite encouraging. So if we go now on how we do that, and what kind of architecture we use to do that, the first thing is, of course, to collect data. And the data collection is not only to collect the corpus, but then make it compatible and to translate it into something that can be ingested not only by the AI itself, but by the underlying databases and information models, if you wish, that are used by the AI to give more accurate answers. Then the second step was how to integrate dynamic data. Dynamic data being you as an operator, but even your customers, want to have telecom and mobile relevant security information inside the AI assistant. And some of it is actually dynamic information coming from your signaling firewall, coming from, let's say, your CM, coming from your logs, coming from basically even your Kubernetes cluster. So here, the goal is really how we can get this information directly into the AI, so that the questions are not going to be static questions you're going to ask it, but things such as, okay, which MS ISDN was actually targeted by a geolocation attack and at the same time smishing attack within the last week? And to be able to answer that, this is a language-based question. You need to convert things that were tabular into things that are actually compatible with a LLM model. And then you need to store it into some kind of database. So it's called vector database, so that it's not only in the language model, but it's also available for retrieval augmented generation, which is a way to make answers from the AI assistant much more accurate, but also fast to integrate. That means that you don't need to retrain the whole AI model in order to have relevant information. And this reduces the cost of AI. So we don't need to be OpenAI. We actually want to be able to have your own AI or the AI partners that you're using. And for us, the large language model part is really a commodity. What is really important is how we translate the information to these AI models. One key thing we had upfront was that there were basically things such as, we want to have this information from you in the cloud. There's no problem because already the VKB is in the cloud, but our private information needs to stay on premise. So that was a strong focus on how we keep your information secure and how we ensure good privacy while enabling hybrid operations where it's both convenient and easy to access and secure. And then, of course, you need to query that, but with querying, the thing is you need also to have some quality assistance. And very, very early, what we saw is that there were some questions where people were satisfied with the answers, even internally, but then they would go to our internal experts and say, okay, is this true? Is this a good analysis? And actually, the feedback loop of AI quality assistance was actually pivotal in our usage of AI LLM into P1 itself. So we said, if we have the need, our customer will need that, and our customer will need also to be able to dashboard it, to have some information about the quantity of question, of course, but also the quality of response. And by linking the fact that P1 expert can go in and check the questions and answers that you ask on demand, that you demand that a P1 expert comes and verifies. Of course, it's not as fast as an AI assistant if our experts are sleeping, but at least within a day, you get your answer that, yes, there was no hallucination in this information. And you get this for the person who asks the question, but also for the manager who wants to say, okay, is P1 LLM accurate and giving good information? So this is really, in a sense, how we architecture this solution in order to deliver basically a few evolving complexity products. So the very basic one is actually our usage of our corpus and translation of data into OpenAI GPT. So it's just ChatGPT. And we use both the GPT interface and the assistant API. And then we can have basically this information directly into with the content of P1 into OpenAI environment. So it's actually very easy to test, very easy to demonstrate, and more importantly, it enables people to have a less scary experience. And that's super important. Telecom and mobile security makes a hard to recruit environment because people are scared. Because people fear to appear dumb, fear to use things that are complex. Having that in basically OpenAI ChatGPT makes it very easy for people to ask questions and feel less in a fearful environment, and to be able to iteratively ask questions and increase their knowledge and increase their proficiency. Of course, we are not going to put everything in OpenAI public ChatGPT, even if it's basically controlled by us and another OpenAI customer cannot directly access our content. We still want to protect our own information. So we actually doubled that with MobileSecAI Cloud, which is here not using the GPT terminology. As soon as you see MobileSecAI, it's under our P1 control completely, but using here cloud resources. The goal was to be able to have basically using hardware running in the cloud, but completely under our control. And that's basically still a low confidentiality corpus, but enable us to have a complete control on our information there. And then, of course, for customers who start to want to have their own custom, document inputted into the model, then we go for the MobileSecAI on-prem and on-prem streaming. So the difference between the two is that on-prem is for static document, And on-prem streaming means that you can stream directly the information coming from maybe P1 telecom monitor as a signaling IDS, but maybe directly also coming from Kubernetes logs, from other signaling firewall logs, from vulnerability scanners, from attack surface management solution, from asset management. And all these tied together inside this LLM because we are using a partner who can translate generic IT information, just like we transform information from the specific OT security environment into LLM. And if we look at it now, the thing is, we're going to have a question very early on the security and privacy of the data. And that's a crucial aspect of our thinking and our focus. To me, it's super important to protect the customer data, the mobile security data from the operator, but also the subscriber privacy data. And if you have detection from, let's say, signaling IDS or signaling firewall, you are going to have subscriber information there. So you actually want to have both this security and the kind of versatile approach to this setup. And that's reflecting to the question that's in the chat. Do you ensure that in case of MobileSecGPT, no sensible data are transferred to OpenAI? Yes, for MobileSecGPT, you don't have the option to upload or stream your content into MobileSecGPT. If you want to do that, you need to start using MobileSecAI, which can be on-prem for very sensitive information. And we recommend that you use on-prem for very sensitive information, such as streamed information from basically your IT systems, or if you upload your high-level, your HLDs, your high-level design, or low-level documentation, etc. So we advise you to run that on-premise at the operator. Now, there's no difference between MobileSecAI software running on-premise and the one we use for basically our cloud operations. So if you would wish to have this software on the cloud receive your information, you could do that. But I think for critical infrastructure, and that's our position, we strongly advise for people to have their own cloud. And actually, we saw some customers who had their own AI and GPU server farm. So they said, okay, that's something that is interesting for me, but I would want to run that on our, basically, it's a use case of usage of what we're building as AI infrastructure. Oh, fine, perfect, actually. That's really what we do. We make corpus for this. So next, basically, the goal was to go directly into some question, and I see already.
We do have some great questions from F, very mysterious F, that that you could input in MobileSecGPT. So Philippe, since you have the accesses, I'm going to share the screen.
I'm going to do that. And one thing that is interesting, and that's always interesting to see the answers, is that, for example, with the MobileSecGPT, there's constraints, so we don't integrate the complete corpus that we have on MobileSecAI, but that gives basically an interface, which is always fun. So it's always interesting to see how it's going to answer the questions from you. And I'm always very much interested to see these answers. And something we can't do in parallel, I wanted to do that originally, is to give the answer from OpenAI ChatGPT with our corpus and from our MobileSecAI on our cloud, but that was too complicated for the demo. Yet, this is really where it starts to shine, is that the more context you give to LLM, the better the answers, especially with retrieval augmented generation. And if you're really interested, we'll be able to go into that.
Philippe, I'm stopping you. We have a question from Momshil. Hi, Momshil. You mentioned that you can you mentioned that you can consume IT and OT data streams, but are you also addressing specific areas like NB-IoT?
So a very interesting question, because if you look at it, we started with the signaling side of MobileSec, of telecom and mobile security, and the OEM side of telecom and mobile security, and the application side, which NB-IoT, as IoT in general, was more basically related to us. We are not focusing too much. And we are seeing an interest there, where operators say, well, that's great, that's really awesome, but what about using the same technology so that we could resell to our customers? And there it's really interesting, because NB-IoT, as IoT in general, is, of course, a source of security events that are useful for the operator. So yes, a direct answer is we can consume actually any kind of output that can be transformed into text to the LLM. And our goal is to have a domain-specific translation layer. So that's MobileSecAI, the stream part, which enable you to take things such as basically information coming from NB-IoT into the LLM. And the more you feed the LLM, then the more accurate answer you'll get to questioning NB-IoT question or any kind of question on the security. And that can go quite deep, because it can go up to the level where you're storing every single transaction. That means every single diameter, SS7, GTPC information about the traffic, so that answers about security are also contextual with the network traffic. So it's starting to be very powerful. Now, one caveat when you do that. For NB-IoT, maybe it's not too much. In some cases, it will be too much. When I say too much, is that the size of storage, not on the AI part, but on the vector database that we use, can really blow up. That means that if you want to keep something like 1 year of context into basically your AI assistant to be able to query any kind of transactions that happen in the past, it's going to be a massive database. And here, there's always a cost-benefit ratio that you want to investigate. But definitely the answer to your question is yes. And not only for the operator, but also for the customer of the operator. And with private 4G and private 5G coming up, or managed private 4G, as we've seen with technologies such as Ericsson LPG, which enable local breakout for power plants and industrial zones of the network. This is going to be super useful for the operator to be able to offer that as a product to their own customer. So hence the white label questions that were asked to, okay, can I sell that to our IoT customers, enterprise customers? So let's go back. I hope I answered your question, Mamshi. And let's go back to the to the questions about basically Cat3 attack. So okay, so does it answer? So to me here, you see what we would see as a normal answer is that here it's a bit too much generic. So I would start by something such as, can you define and then an SS7 Cat3 attack? And then by having this context, then I would ask it some question, because you must understand how AI works, is that AI works by having some context and building this context and then asking some questions about this context. And here, the first answer to that to me was not good, was bad. So that's where typically we ask information about context, and then we ask more precise information, which was at the beginning, which was, how can I prevent? Okay. And okay. No, honestly, it's not really giving good answer on this. And okay, let's see what it presents. Yes, thanks, Pierre. Would it also provide mistakes in the configuration file and ensure it will be processed locally? I didn't understand that, actually.
Maybe Ravi, this is something that we can discuss just after we blocked 30 minutes of your time. It's 9:30 already, so maybe this is something that if we don't have the complete details, either we take 5 minutes now, Ravi, or you can contact us on the email. It was also part of the idea is don't hesitate to contact us if you want us to have a dedicated demo so we can ask the specificity of what you need to look into. Your realities there is, as Philippe has. Thank you, Ravi.
I'm putting some more questions, and you notice that I've done something here. I created a new chat by going here in MobileSecGPT and going into new chat. The reason for that, and that's super important, is that you don't want to keep the context of the previous question and answers for something that is unrelated. So what we found also was not only how to have good answers from the LLM, but also how we could have better answers by having better queries. And that's where basically there's some usage of AI and LLMs that works, and some usage that doesn't really work. So here we see that, okay, on this second question, I can detect if someone is spoofing my GTs. We get better information from the AI model because there are some information that are limited in MobileSecGPT and some others that are not. MobileSecGPT, right now, we have a limit at 400 megabytes of queries. When we are using the Assistant API from OpenAI, we have actually no limit in queries, but you don't have this kind of same user, how to say, very known interface such as this ChatGPT interface. And when we use MobileSecAI, so not using OpenAI, then we don't have any limit either, but we have to have a GPU farm and a vector database that is able to store all this information. And the more you put data into the model and the more you disambiguate things, I wanted just to touch very quickly about this. For example, there's the need, especially in telecom and mobile, about disambiguation. One key thing here, if, for example, if you ask a 2G, 3G engineer what is SCP, they go, oh yeah, service control point. That's a canal network element. And you ask a 5G, basically a network guy, so what is the SCP? And he's going like, oh yeah, that's the service control proxy. That's basically the equivalent of the diameter relay agent or the STP. And so if you ask the same question in the context of telecom and mobile, what is the SCP? And you didn't work on disambiguation, then the LLM is going to be confused. So it's super important to not only input massive amount of data. Here on MobileSecGPT, you must understand that this is going to be limited. Come to Mobile World Congress to see actually MobileSecAI. Then, or request private demo with Pierre. We didn't have time to do that in such 30 minutes. But one thing that is super important is to have basically this knowledge about quantity and disambiguation or translation to LLM models. There was another question I wanted to... and I'm sorry, Pierre, am I taking too long? Because I see I'm over time.
We are
because this is
largely over time. Okay. But, it's an exciting topic, and we are all very excited about it. I do think that, okay, so the one last question from D that I will let you to finish, Philippe, and then conclude. Any question, we are very happy to discuss over a dedicated call. We may want, after MWC, to generate another webinar. There has been a lot of interaction. I think we need to deep dive a little bit more. But Philippe, take these questions and then we conclude.
It's super important to me because it's really related to the security and privacy of the data. So no, we basically, OpenAI is a partner, but we made sure that not only the queries, but also the corpus stay private to P1 and is not used to improve the LLM model nor the usability. So they get zero telemetry, or at least basically that's the contractual engagement they have. So we can still be very secure in the fact that they are not going to use that. But that's where I put the limit, is that, of course, everything was checked so that they can't basically use the our corpus or our question for the training of OpenAI ChatGPT. But at the same time, we still don't want to put some too sensitive information. So that's where we consider that there's information, especially your information, that should never arrive into MobileSecGPT. I hope that answers the question.
And one thing that I would add is, in terms of business development, which is my prerogative, is we definitely don't want to give our proprietary data to someone else. So we are very, very careful on that. There is a question of also revenue streams for us. So we are very careful.
But at the same time, the point of hybrid is that we still want people to access very easily this experience and to be able to ask it to MobileSecGPT on their custom, basically on their typical OpenAI environment. So there's always a trade-off. Security of the data, absolutely our priority. Accessibility, it's the whole point of LLM. We really want people to be able to access this, because keeping up and having super fast answers sometimes is very important too. And not only is we can have the best of both worlds.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Thank you all for your time, your questions, your implications. I'm seeing a lot of inbound emails about the topic, so I'm looking forward to discussing it with you. Come and meet us in Barcelona. We will be 4 of us coming: Philippe, myself, Natasha, and Yves. So we'd be thrilled to meet you in person. We have new webinars upcoming. The next one is on the 7th of March around smishing. Very, very active topic. So looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Philippe, for building this.
Thank you.
And let's speak soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.